Last Sunday, I broke into my old house. I know how that sounds. I'm not proud of it. But when you disappear for 5 years and the woman who told you to vanish suddenly shows up in your dreams night after night, same dress, same perfume, same unreadable expression, you eventually crack. I didn't go there to hurt anyone. I just wanted to see if it still smelled like lavender and burnt toast. I wanted to know if the floorboard in the hallway still squeaked when you stepped on it barefoot. I wanted to know if I ever really existed there, or if I'd just been some placeholder husband she kept around until her real life began. The weirdest part? The front door still had the same keypad. And the code? Still my birthday. March 9th, 0309. She didn't change it. That alone messed me up more than anything else I found inside. The house was remodeled. New paint, different furniture, modern lighting that made the kitchen look like a dentist's office. But the bones were the same. The scar in the drywall from when I tripped carrying a bookshelf? Still there. The cabinet door that never closed all the way? Still squeaky. The ceiling in the guest bathroom still had that weird rust halo. But she was gone. I knew she didn't live there anymore. I wasn't stalking her. A friend of a friend said she sold the place a year ago. I just wanted one last look before it was sold again. I was halfway through the living room when I noticed something tucked behind the radiator. A photo. A real one. Glossy, slightly warped from heat. It was me, sitting on our old porch swing, barefoot, holding a mug of tea I didn't even remember making, and written on the back in her handwriting. I thought I hated you, but I hated how safe I felt. That's when I knew something was off. Because when Marilee told me to disappear 5 years ago, she meant it. Her exact words were, "Don't leave a note. Don't call. Don't exist." And I followed that command like it was gospel. I erased myself from every corner of her life. So why would she keep any photo of me? Why would the code still be my birthday? And most of all, why would her new husband, the guy she left me for, track me down 3 days later, shaking like a leaf, saying, "She collapsed when she saw your name. She thought you were dead. She's in the hospital, and she's asking for you." I didn't go to the hospital right away. I sat in my car for over an hour outside a gas station 20 miles from town, gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles went white. I kept reading his message over and over again. "She's asking for you, Erwin. I think she thought you were dead. Please." She collapsed. That last word messed me up. Collapsed. What does that even mean? Fainted? Seizure? Some emotional breakdown? I hadn't seen Marilee in 5 years, and now suddenly, she's in a hospital bed, whispering my name like I'm a ghost from the attic. She was the one who told me to disappear. Not just leave. Disappear. Like I was a bug she didn't want to squash. Just gone. Removed. Deleted. I honored that. I made myself vapor. I lived out of my car for the first 4 months, worked under-the-table jobs fixing fences, cleaning boats, selling firewood. No last name. No paper trail. Just me, the road, and a woman's voice in my head repeating, "Don't exist." And now I'm supposed to do what? Walk into her recovery room with flowers and say, "Surprise, the ghost is back." I finally drove to the hospital. Not because I was ready. I wasn't. But because some sick part of me wanted to see her face when she realized I was still real. I wanted to know what 5 years of silence tasted like when it was finally broken. The front desk lady looked at me like I was wearing a time bomb. When I gave her my name, she froze mid-keystroke and said, "She's conscious, but not speaking much. They're running stress tests." She keeps asking, "Is he real?" Then she gave me a visitor badge and told me not to stay long. The hallway smelled like antiseptic and stale cafeteria coffee. My palms were sweating so badly, I wiped them on my jeans every 10 steps. Her room number was 2417. I pushed the door open quietly. She was sitting up, her blonde hair tied back sloppily, and 4 running into her arm. There were dark circles under her eyes, and her skin looked paler than I remembered. But she was still her, still Marilee. And when she saw me, her mouth opened like she wanted to scream, but nothing came out. Just silence. She stared at me like she was looking at a ghost wearing her husband's skin. Her eyes filled with something between terror and disbelief. And then, with a shaky whisper, she said the first words I'd heard from her in 5 years. "I buried you." She didn't say it metaphorically. Her voice had weight, like she meant it literally. I took one step into the room. "You told me to disappear, so I did." She shook her head slowly, tears filling her eyes. No, you don't understand. I didn't think you'd actually vanish." My voice cracked. "You told me to not exist." She reached for something in the drawer beside her bed, a small leather journal. She pulled it out and placed it on her lap, hands trembling. Then she looked at me with a haunted expression. They told me you were dead. 5 years ago. I identified your body. I went to your funeral. I froze. What? What the hell was she talking about? I didn't die. I left. And I never looked back. I just stood there, staring at her. My throat was dry, but my heart was hammering so hard I could hear it in my ears. She said she went to my funeral. She identified my body. How does that make sense? How does someone mistake a stranger's corpse for their own husband? Unless they want to. I didn't know whether to laugh, cry, or run. My legs felt like wet rope, and all I could manage was a dumb, stunned, "You what?" Marilee looked like she'd just confessed to a murder. She didn't blink, didn't breathe, just nodded and said, "They told me they found your body in the river. ID in the wallet. Shoes matched. Wedding band on the left hand." The jaw was shattered, so they said dental records were impossible to verify. I shook my head, trying to wrap my mind around this insane claim. Marilee, I wasn't in a river. I was in Oklahoma, working at a gas station and sleeping in the back of a Jeep. "I know that now," she whispered. "But then I believed it. I needed to believe it." That line punched me in the gut. I needed to believe it. What kind of person needs their husband to be dead? I sat down in the chair by her bed, numb and confused, the smell of antiseptic making me feel like I was floating. She stared at the blanket, fiddling with the corner of it like a child caught lying. "I wasn't supposed to see you again," she said. "Not like this. You told me to disappear," I muttered. "So I did. But don't act like this was a misunderstanding. You wanted me gone." She didn't deny it. Not right away. Just closed her eyes and exhaled like she'd been holding in 5 years' worth of shame. Then she finally said, "I thought I could erase you, make you into something that only lived in the past. But seeing you again, it's like I broke something sacred." I wanted to scream. I wanted to ask her 1,000 questions. About the fake funeral. About this new husband of hers, the one who messaged me. About why my name would send her collapsing like she'd seen a ghost. But my voice failed me. All I could do was stare at the journal on her lap. "What's in there?" I asked. She hesitated. "Things I never told anyone. Things I couldn't tell you before." I reached out. "May I?" She didn't stop me. I opened the journal. The first page was blank, but the second had 3 words written in bold black ink, scratched so hard they nearly tore the page. "He followed me." I looked up. Her eyes were wide and glassy. "Who?" I asked, but I already knew I wouldn't like the answer. She looked over her shoulder like someone might be standing behind the curtain. Then, barely audible, she said, "The man who took your face." I stared at the journal like it might burn through my hands. The man who took your face. What the hell did that even mean? Some poetic metaphor? A hallucination scribbled out during one of her breakdowns? I didn't know whether to be furious, terrified, or sorry for her. Maybe all 3. Marilee had gone pale. Her lips were dry. Her fingers were still resting on the blanket, twitching slightly like they remembered something her mind couldn't say out loud. "I know it sounds insane," she whispered, "but it's real. I swear it's real." I didn't interrupt her. I wanted to. My instincts were screaming at me to pull the emergency brake on whatever this was turning into. But instead, I sat there in silence and let her talk. 3 weeks after you left," she began, "I started seeing him. Not directly. Just glimpses. The back of someone's head in a crowd. A jacket like yours at the gas station. I thought it was guilt. I thought I was just seeing ghosts because I told the man who loved me to erase himself." I opened my mouth, but she held up a shaky hand. "Let me finish." She turned to another page in the journal, showing me a crude drawing. A man's silhouette, thin, slouched, with hollow eyes. No real features. Just shadows where his face should have been. And under it, written over and over again, "He's wearing your silence. He's wearing your silence. He's wearing your silence." I started getting letters, she continued, left under the mat. Notes that didn't make sense. No return address. Just small envelopes that smelled like engine oil. At first, they were cryptic. Bits of poetry. Sentences from our old arguments. Things only you and I would know. I swallowed hard. "I never sent you anything, Marilee." "I know that now," she said. "But I didn't back then. So when the police called me about a body they pulled from the Coldwater River, same build, same hair color, wearing a ring with our initials engraved inside, I didn't question it. I didn't want to. They asked if I wanted to see the body, but I said no. I couldn't bear it. I told them to burn what was left. You didn't even check if it was me, I said, my voice low and shaking. She flinched. I thought it was mercy. For both of us. I closed the journal, suddenly aware of how fast my heart was beating. And the man, the one you thought was following you, what happened to him? She looked toward the window, eyes distant. He started getting bolder. He knew where I shopped, what nights I had wine. I thought I was losing my mind, so I stopped going out. My friends thought I was grieving, but I was hiding. He never showed his full face. Always just enough. Enough to look like me? Is that what she was saying? I stood up, pacing the room. You're telling me someone pretended to be me after I vanished? Someone made you believe I died. For what? I don't know, she whispered. But I think he wanted to take your place. My blood ran cold. After I remarried, it stopped. For a while. Then, last week, I got a letter. No envelope. Just a scrap of paper under my pillow. I turned to her sharply. What did it say? She reached for the drawer again and pulled out a folded note. I unfolded it carefully, heart thudding in my chest. It said, he's back. But I never left. I left the hospital in a haze. Her words kept rattling around in my head like loose screws in a metal box. He wanted to take your place. That phrase didn't just disturb me, it stuck to my bones. It wasn't paranoia. It wasn't grief. It was specific, intentional, like she wasn't describing a hallucination, but a strategy. Someone had moved in like a virus, filling the space I used to occupy, and no one, not her, not the police, not even her new husband, ever thought to question it. I sat in my car in the hospital parking lot for almost 40 minutes, watching people come and go, wondering how many of them were pretending too. I looked at myself in the rearview mirror and saw something I hadn't noticed before. Not age, not exhaustion, but unfamiliarity. For a second, I didn't recognize my own damn face. I wondered, how easy would it be for someone else to wear it better? I drove around aimlessly for hours, retracing old roads I used to know when we were still together. The city had changed. New buildings, unfamiliar restaurants, glass storefronts that didn't used to be there. But the bones were the same, just like the house. I ended up parked across from the bakery where we used to buy those overpriced croissants she pretended to hate, but always finished first. It was still there. Same pink sign, same crooked closed Mondays sticker. That's when I saw him. At first, I thought it was my own reflection in the window. Same frame, same slouched posture, same way of scratching the back of the neck. But the moment he turned, I knew. It wasn't me, but it was close. Uncomfortably close. He stepped out of the bakery carrying a single paper bag. Vanilla croissant. I knew it. Then he walked to a dark blue sedan across the street and sat behind the wheel. No hesitation. Like he'd done it 1,000 times. He wasn't nervous. He wasn't in a rush. He didn't even glance around. But I watched him. He didn't notice me. He started the car, drove 2 blocks, then parked again. He was watching someone else now. I followed his eyes. Across the street, through the tinted cafe windows, I saw her. Merrily, she was sitting at a table alone, hands folded in front of her, journal on the table, head tilted down as if she already knew. And he just watched. Not in a creepy, stalker way. It was worse than that. He watched her like someone who was entitled to her. Like a husband. I couldn't breathe. I ducked in my seat, heart slamming against my ribs. This wasn't grief. This wasn't some leftover obsession. This man knew her schedule. He knew what time she'd leave the hospital. He knew where she'd sit, what she'd order. He knew her, and she had no idea he was just outside the glass. I reached for my phone. Then I stopped. Who the hell would believe me? I'd been gone 5 years. No ID, no official records, legally dead. A shadow of a man trying to accuse another shadow of replacing him. If I reported him, I'd be the one questioned. If I warned her, she'd think I was having a breakdown. So I made a decision. I took out the burner phone I'd used while living off-grid and sent a text to the number her new husband had used to contact me. I saw him. Not 2 minutes passed before I got a reply. Don't follow him. Then another. We think he's watching more than just her. I didn't drive home that night. I couldn't. The idea of going back to the rental trailer behind the alpaca farm, where everything was quiet enough to hear your own bones creak, suddenly felt dangerous. Like silence itself was no longer safe. I ended up in a 24-hour laundromat 2 towns over, sitting in a plastic chair beneath buzzing fluorescent lights, watching someone else's socks tumble in the dryer while I tried to piece together Who the hell was living my life? The text kept replaying in my head. Don't follow him. We think he's watching more than just her. That second message haunted me. Who else was we? Why hadn't Marilee's new husband told me the full story when he reached out? And more importantly, if this guy wasn't just stalking her, who the hell else was part of his theater? Around 3 a.m., I finally forced myself to sleep in the back seat of my car, parked behind a bowling alley. I dreamed I was walking through our old house, but all the pictures in the frames were of him, that man from the bakery, with my face, my eyes, my smirk, only colder. As if someone had taken my entire identity and run it through a photocopier too many times. When I woke up, I drove straight to the church where Marilee and I were married. I don't know why. Maybe nostalgia. Maybe because I was desperate to touch something real. The building was still there, though it had been converted into some kind of community counseling center. Inside, the stained glass was gone, the pews removed, replaced with folding chairs and a sad little coffee station. I almost left until I heard the voice. His voice. It was muffled, coming from a side room down the hall. I recognized the tone immediately. The cadence. Almost too familiar. I crept toward the door, heart thudding. Just enough to peek. There he was, talking to a small group of people in a circle. Casual, confident, comfortable, like he belonged there. He wore my posture. He wore my laugh. But worse than that, he wore my memories. He was telling a story I had told once during our premarital counseling, about the night the power went out and Marilee and I danced by flashlight in the kitchen. It was a dumb story, not even that romantic. But it was ours. And he told it like it was his. Same details. Same awkward pauses. Even the part about the pancake batter we never cleaned off the ceiling. I stepped back so fast I almost fell into a janitor's cart. My stomach twisted in a way I can't describe. This wasn't someone who wanted to look like me. This was someone who wanted to become me. Fully. As if my absence wasn't a void, it was an invitation. I waited until he left the building and followed him again. This time, I kept my distance. He drove with the ease of someone who belonged. Same car. Same neighborhood. He parked on a street I used to take every day to work. And then he got out, walked down a gravel path, and used a key to enter a small blue house. I blinked. That was my coworker Harold's house. Or at least, it had been. I hadn't spoken to Harold in 6 years. He'd gone off-grid after a workplace breakdown, if I remembered right. Sold everything and disappeared. Just like me. And now this man, this version of me, was using his house like it was his own. How many identities had this guy slipped into? How many lives had he sampled like drinks at a bar? I didn't know what to think anymore. Was I being hunted? Or worse, was I the only one who realized I was already dead on paper because he'd buried me under a life better lived? I sat in my car across the street from Harold's old house until the sun began to rise behind the telephone wires. I watched the man move through the kitchen with total comfort, pouring coffee, opening cabinets without hesitation, answering a call on speaker like no one could touch him. He had become something worse than an impostor. He was settled, not performing, not rehearsing, living. And in that moment, I wasn't sure which version of me was more real, this polished, accepted man with my borrowed past, or the ghost parked on the curb who once called that life his. I had questions. I had theories. But none of it mattered until I had proof. Something concrete. Because if I was right, if this man had been cycling through abandoned lives, adopting pieces of other men like trying on suits, then Harold hadn't just vanished from burnout. He was erased. And maybe, just maybe, I was next. I started digging. Not just figuratively. I drove 2 towns over to the public archives, found a cheap motel, and spent 2 full days searching through employment records, old leases, public obituaries, anything that might tie this man, this life thief, to more than just me. I didn't know his real name, so I searched for patterns instead. Disappearances followed by sudden new tenants. Burned-out addresses followed by renovation permits. People who fell off the map, and someone who moved into the blank space they left behind. And slowly, something began to take shape. A trail. Different states. Different towns. One common thread. Short-term, quiet men. Husbands. Loners. Guys no one missed for weeks. I found at least 4 of them in the last 8 years. Different names, but similar enough to form a silhouette. One of them had even filed a missing person report on himself. That file was closed within weeks. Mistaken identity, the officer wrote. He returned home on his own. But I knew that wasn't him. It was him. The impostor. The collector. I stared at the photocopy of the man's ID. Different name. Different haircut. Same smirk. Same lifeless eyes. I felt my stomach twist again, like my body was trying to warn me something my mind wasn't ready to say out loud. This man didn't just take identities. He took purpose. He found lives that were fragile, lonely, unloved, and stepped into them like a savior. He watched people who didn't think they mattered, and then gave them the peace of disappearing. Not violently, not with blood or threats, just erasure, quiet and clean. He let them walk away and wore what they left behind. A soft form of extinction, one no one would scream about, and somehow merrily fit into all this. Maybe not willingly. Maybe she had her suspicions all along, but didn't know how to untangle the real from the convenient. Maybe she thought she deserved to be haunted after pushing me out. Or maybe, this is what scared me most, she never even noticed the switch. I had one choice left. I had to confront him. Not with anger, not with fists, but with truth. If he wanted my life so badly, then it was time he looked into the face of the man he was still trying to be. So that night, I returned to the house. I parked down the street, waited until the lights dimmed, and walked up the driveway barefoot so the gravel wouldn't give me away. The night air was still, thick with the weight of everything I was about to say. I wasn't shaking anymore. I felt calm, like a man preparing to wake someone from a dream. I didn't knock. I opened the door. He had left it unlocked, almost like he'd been waiting for me. The door creaked softly as I stepped inside. The same house I had once known through someone else, a man I used to share cigarettes with during lunch breaks, a man who disappeared like I did. But now it had new furniture, new walls, my handwriting on the shopping list magnet to the fridge, my mannerisms in the pile of folded laundry, my scent in the air. Except none of it was mine anymore. It belonged to him. He was sitting at the kitchen table when I entered, facing the window like he knew I'd come. He didn't flinch, didn't reach for a weapon, didn't pretend to be surprised. He just sipped from a chipped coffee mug and set it down gently. I figured it was time, he said. His voice wasn't threatening. It was calm, matter of fact, the kind of voice you'd hear from a counselor or a priest. I didn't speak. I just sat across from him. For a while, we sat in silence, two ghosts sharing a body. Then he said something that stunned me in its honesty. You walked away from a life. You didn't want it anymore. I filled a hole. I stared at him. You didn't fill it. You buried it. He smiled faintly. Not buried. Preserved. You wouldn't believe how many men walk away hoping no one ever finds them. You're just the first one who came back. I could feel my jaw clench. This was never your life to live. No, he admitted. But you gave it away. That part hurt more than I expected. Because deep down, I knew he wasn't entirely wrong. I had vanished. I left my name behind like an unguarded wallet on a park bench. He didn't steal it. He adopted it. But that didn't mean he could keep it. I reached into my pocket and set the photo on the table, the one I'd found tucked behind the radiator back at the old house. Me on the porch swing, barefoot, mug in hand. I thought I hated you, but I hated how safe I felt. Her words. His eyes lingered on it. You're not safe, I said. You're just invisible. Like I was. Like Harold was. But I came back. And I'm staying. He sighed. What do you want? I stood slowly. My name. My face. My place in the world. You can have the emptiness if you want, but I'm taking back the part of me that still exists. And then I did something neither of us expected. I opened the fridge, took out a bottle of water, and handed it to him. No police. No threats. Just go. Disappear. You're good at that, right? He stared at me for a long time. Not with hate. Not with fear. Just with something close to respect. Then he stood, picked up a small duffel bag from behind the door, and walked out without a word. Just like I once had. Only this time I watched. That was 6 months ago. Since then, I've rebuilt piece by piece. I've contacted my family, apologized to friends, reclaimed documents, changed my status from deceased to present. It took paperwork, interviews, awkward explanations, but I'm back. Not as the man I used to be. As someone better. Marilee and I? We talk. Carefully. Honestly. We're not jumping back into anything. But there's warmth now. She's healing too. Turns out grief, even mistaken, leaves real scars. But we sit together sometimes. Share coffee. Laugh at old memories like borrowed movies. The other day, she asked if I ever hated her for what she said that night. I told her the truth. I did. For a long time. But now, No, you gave me the chance to disappear, and then you gave me the strength to return. The world didn't end. It started over. And this time, I wrote my own name on the door.